Okay, guys, welcome those of you that are on Zoom. Although I think this is a record time for me to get logged into Zoom. So maybe I'm getting better. Sorry, I got stuck at home. I was working with another online student and didn't get out the door. Okay, so how'd you guys do with the first module of Excel? Good? Okay. Any parts that you're like, yeah, I don't know what I was doing there?
On the SAM project, the last one, I don't know, it's just, I wasn't understanding what it was asking, and I can't read textbooks very well.
Oh.
I'm very bad at textbook reading.
Okay, okay. I'll take a look at your project and see if I can give you any pointers on that. Anybody else?
The last part of it. I think the training and the worksheet, the last one, we gotta do your own.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you kind of have to get used to the language that is used with the Excel spreadsheet. And that just comes from working with it. But yeah, some of that can be a little confusing and hard to understand. So, but I can take a look at that for you guys and give you some feedback on your reports for those. So, what about you guys at home? Did any of you have issues with your first project in Excel?
I didn't. I didn't realize that I had finished it like way before time. I finished it as soon as it opened.
Okay.
So I've been kind of like waiting on the next one to open.
Okay.
I did pretty good.
All right. Yeah, I think that I moved everything back a week, so it may have been out there earlier for you guys. But I try to get the textbook project and the training out. Like tomorrow, it should be available for module 3. Just so at any point in time that you get finished with module 2, if you want to start on those things in module 3, you can. So if you're ever ready to do that stuff and I didn't get the dates right, or sometimes I'll set your due date or your due date time to 11:59 a.m. instead of p.m. So if you ever recognize that, just send me a text and I'll get it fixed as soon as I can. But whenever I have to change everything like that, sometimes I don't get everything done the way I should. All right, so as we get started with this second project, module 2, here's the file name that you're going to need to submit. So you want to make sure that you get that copied and save it where you want it. Oh, I forget. I mean, you want me to go to this? Okay, I don't know. I'm just gonna save it here for right now. Hopefully you guys know how to navigate to your OneDrive or your stick drive or whatever better than I do. I think I save things to the OneDrive and then I get somewhere else and I can't find it. And it's so frustrating to me. And I will be the first to admit that I hate Google Drive and Google Sheets and Google everything. But I know I can log in and I know I can find my stuff. And I'm sure there's something that I'm doing not right with OneDrive to make it hard for me to find it, but it's not something that I use all the time. So if you have that same issue, get a thumb drive and save or email stuff to yourself.
I email it.
And then you'll always be able to find it. So, okay, I gotta get my textbook. Okay, so in this second module, we are going to be having a project very similar to what we just did. But instead of oh my gosh, what is all this stuff? I bet I don't have my computer glasses with me. That would be probably helpful for this. I do. For some reason, my bifocals don't work well. Oh, look how much clearer that is. I don't know what I just got into there. That's not. Oh, that's the, I clicked on the wrong thing there. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I can't talk and do login stuff at the same time. All right, so we're going to work a little bit more with formulas. We're going to learn a little bit more about functions tonight. We did some sum functions last time, but we'll work with other types of functions. The formatting that we will do, we'll do some of the same stuff that we've done before, but we'll also do some additional types of formatting. I think I talked with you last week about the difference between formatting currency and floating versus fixed dollar signs, and so we'll look at that. One of the other things that is a big deal in this one is conditional formatting. And sometimes students have some difficulty with that, but hopefully it won't be too big of a deal. So this project, we're doing a salary report for a company that gets paid every 2 weeks. And this is one of those spreadsheets that you will be able to use over and over again. Like you could save it as a template and then use it each time that you're having a new pay period. But in order to do that and make it work well for you, you need to make sure that you use formulas and functions appropriately. So, okay. Y'all, let me get my screen up here for you so you can see my spreadsheet. Okay. All right, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So hopefully we can see it a little bit better. In your textbook, there is a table that gives you a lot of the information that we're going to be typing in here. So you'll want to it's table 2-1. So you can come back to that if you want to. We're going to start off with doing our title and subtitle. So in A1, we'll do our CLAPORE engineering, CLAPORE engineering. Then you can press your enter key or your down arrow. And this is going to be salary report. Okay, if you look at the final product of this, it looks like there's going to be lots of numbers in there. We are just going to enter the first few columns of information, and then we're going to be able to do formulas for the rest of it. Okay, so in A3, we're going to do our column headings. So this will be employee. And this is email, address. C3 is dependents. Okay, then in D3, we're going to type our hours. In E3, we're going to type hourly, and then we're going to use a second line by pressing our Alt and Enter key at the same time, so that on the second line it says pay rate. So we'll type hourly, then you're going to use your Alt and your Enter key at the same time, and that will give you a second line where you can type pay rate. You'll notice when you do that, it expands that row to a taller column, so you can see all of that information. In F, we're going to have our gross pay. In G, we'll have our federal tax. Oh, yeah, I knew I missed something. All right, sorry. I'm going to go back to E, and I'm going to insert a column because I forgot. I got to fix this too. So this should be hourly. And then, I'm sorry. No, that's not right. Hold on, let me undo that. Okay, D is hours and then Alt Enter worked. Okay, I knew we had two cells that we did 2 rows on. And I was like, what did I do? Well, how did I mess this up? Okay, so then after federal tax, I'm having a real difficult time typing tonight, aren't I? Yes. I fixed that and then I had to undo what I did. Okay. Gross pay, federal tax, state tax, and then you're just going to use a percent sign. So that's the shift and then number 5. And then we have our net pay and our hire date. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead. They're going to tell us a little bit later on what size they want these columns to be, but I'm just going to expand mine so you guys can see.
I'm sorry, but how did you get how did you say the expand?
Yeah, so you'll type the word hourly or hours and then Alt and Enter. And then type the bottom row. Then for those of you that are ready, you may want to go back to table 2. If you have that showing on your other screen, you might want to go back a few pages. Yeah, and then you should just be able to type directly from that. So this is very important that you spell these people's names correctly because it will affect the next column that we do where the email addresses are. Notice there are no email addresses given. We are going to use a skill called flash fill once we get all of these typed in. So just skip past the email addresses. If you would to go down the employee column and type all the employees in first, you can. If you want to go across the row, however you are more comfortable. I'm more comfortable doing a tab going across. And then 9, 5, 10. If you go across all the way to column K, when you get to column K, you can press your enter key and it takes you back to column A. If you mess up and you do something else while you're going across that row, it won't. It'll just, when you press your enter key, it'll take you down to the next row below the cell that you're in. So it might be easier to do that. I don't know. When you get to whole numbers like the 80 and the 60, you don't have to put the decimal place in. We will be working with doing decimal places later so they all match, but you don't necessarily have to put those in if you don't want to right now. Okay. So this is what you should have. As you typed in your data for your spreadsheet. If you have a chance, you might go back and check your numbers. I don't know that I've ever known anybody that gets paid like 2 cents or 43 cents or in their hourly rate, but okay. Okay, is everybody still working on data entry? Okay, I'll give you a little bit of time. I keep looking at that word address and it looks like it's spelled wrong, but I guess, oh, it is. Okay, I was like, something is not right about that. 2 Ds, there, that looks better. Right? Oh no, it still looks funny. I will tell you, once we do some of the calculations here and you come up with incorrect numbers, that will help you go back and figure out if you have an error somewhere in the D columns D and E where we put that, those two pieces of information in. I know this isn't a word processing or typing class, so I'll let you guys get your stuff typed in. Those of you at home, how are you doing with data entry if you're following along with us?
So far, so good.
I'm sorry, what?
So far, so good.
Okay.
This
Same.
Okay. Brandon, are you done? Jonathan, how are we doing? You done? Are the rest of you guys all done too? Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is use this skill called flash fill. And I will be quite honest with you, I've done this before and I failed. And I'm like, okay, this is something, I didn't do something right. So if you fail the first time you do this, just go back and start over again and retry it. That's what I had to do. So we are going to type in the first two email addresses that are given to us. And they are created by using the last name. I'm sorry, using the first letter of the first name and the last name. So this one will be B and then his last name, ALTORE at example.com. And that's what these all are going to be, at example.com. So the next one is the first letter, L, and then the last name, Fox, at example.com. Now, what you have put in here, this B and Altore or Altore, however you say that, and the L Fox, they have to match what you've typed over here in the first column. Okay, so we have B as the first name and then this ALTORE. So if you left off the E or you typed in a second R and it doesn't match, then you're going to have issues in getting this flash fill thing to work. Okay. Now we are going to select the range B4, and you'll have to make sure that you don't have the finger pointy hand, because if you do, then it's going to want to go to that email address. So make sure you have the white plus sign around there, and you're going to select B4 down to B12. If you have difficulty doing that, you can just move your mouse so that B4 is selected, and then you can hold your shift key down and go all the way down to B12 and select it that way. Then we're going to go to the data tab up here on our ribbon. And in the data tools, which is kind of in the center of that ribbon, you will see a button called Flash Fill. When you click the Flash Fill button, it should complete the rest of those email addresses for you without having to do all that typing. So they should all have the first initial and then the last name as you've typed it in there. So again, if you mistyped any of that, you may get errors. You may have grading errors with that. So just keep that in mind. But that's a very nice time saver. And I think that is a 2019 feature. I don't think it was in the 2016, but I don't always have the best memory because I don't use that function a whole lot. All right, we're going to go down to cell A13 and we're going to type the word totals. Let me back up here. Okay, when I typed my letter T, you guys see here that the word Steve Tillman showed up. That is kind of a nice feature sometimes. So if there's something that matches above where you've typed information before, you may want to use that information again. So if we did need Steve Tillman or whatever it happened to be, we could press our tab key or enter key and it will keep that information there for us. I don't remember what that's called, but they don't really teach it. It happens. So, okay, so we're doing totals with an S. Then we'll press our enter key. We'll go down to A14, and this is where we'll put in the highest. On row 15, the lowest, and on 16, average. We'll go down to the sheet tab name where it says sheet 1, and they have us change that to salary report. Hopefully you guys didn't find out the hard way that if you don't type the sheet name correctly, that you get a 0 on that sheet. Then we're going to right click on this sheet tab. And they want us to change the color to blue accent 1. So we'll go to the tab color and we'll choose blue accent 1. And they have you save the file with the file name that you're turning it in as. Well, maybe they have you save, I think they have it different because it doesn't have your name in there. So you should have already saved with your name in there if you copied it from the beginning. In your textbook, the next section, this is 2-4, just gives you some reading there about putting formulas in. Anytime that you create a formula, and we did subtractions last time, that would be what we would refer to as a formula, where we did the sum, because we had the word sum put in there, that's called a function. So anytime you have a named formula, that is a function. When you type in formulas, you're always, or functions, you'll always start with the equal sign. And in the second paragraph here, it gives information about what's called a circular reference, a direct circular reference, and an indirect circular reference. We don't necessarily talk about those or deal with those or need to have knowledge of those, other than if you get one as an error when you're doing your work, this will help explain what it is and maybe how you came about getting that specific error. We are going to go back up to F4, and we're going to enter our formulas for our worksheet here. So we'll start in column F, where we have our gross pay, and we're going to go all the way across Benny's row here and get all of his information put in, and then we'll use our fill handle to fill it all the way down for the rest of our spreadsheet. So our gross pay is going to be our hours worked times our hourly pay rate. If you type in equals 74.5 times 35.25, you will get the correct answer, but you will not have the correct formula. So we always want to use cell references in our formulas when we can. And that way, when we work with our spreadsheet for our next 2-week pay period, all we have to do is enter the data and the formulas will calculate the gross pay, the federal pay or federal tax and all of that. So we start with the equal sign and we'll just use D3 asterisk for your multiply. So that's shift and 8, or if you're using the 10 keypad over there, there's an asterisk over there. E4, whoops, E4, let me try that again. D3 times D4. I told you I'm having a bad typing night. D4 times E4. And in your textbook, they are probably capitalized when you see them. You do not have to capitalize them. Excel will automatically do that, but you do not have to. Somehow I got one lowercase and one capital. Don't know. For our federal tax, oops, I pressed my tab key here. And this is where you can, if you have that table in front of you, you can check your numbers. So this gross pay would be 2626.125. And we will round those decimal places later. If yours is only showing 2 decimal places, that's okay. Because we'll round them up to just 2 decimal places a little bit later when we do all of our formatting. Okay, in G4, our federal tax. They figure your federal tax by taking your gross pay, which we just figured in F4, minus your dependents, which is in C4, and then multiplying by 22.16. And you may be thinking, where in the world do we get 22.16? 22.16 is a number that is given to us by the federal government so that they determine how much of our taxes are taken out by that number. Now, if you've taken an accounting class at some point in time, that will make a lot more sense to you because you've dealt with doing payroll taxes in an accounting simulation somewhere. If you've not ever done accounting, you're like, why is that? And most of the time, if you receive a paycheck, all you see is this is the amount that's taken out of your federal taxes. You have no idea how they come up with it. And so this is how they come up with it. Oh, sorry, I forgot the first part of that. It's equal 26.26 times, and then the rest of that is in parentheses. I did forget to tell you, we use parentheses just like we did back in algebra class. So even if you're like, I hated algebra, you probably know anything in parentheses is done first, right? And that's all we really need to know about algebra is that we do what's in parentheses first in this class, okay? So again, the 0.26 is given to us by the federal government, and the 22.16 is given to us by the federal government. And those change occasionally, but I don't know how frequently because I don't do payroll. So in G, we will type, or G4, we will type equals 0.26, again, an asterisk, and then a parentheses, which is the shift and the number 9. Okay. And then our gross pay, you can just click on F4 with your mouse. And I find this a much easier way to do it so that I don't have to type D4, and so I don't type D4 instead of E4 or F4. So you can use your mouse and click the cell that you need to reference. Then we'll use a minus key. If you're using the row at the top, it's the dash that's next to the 0. And then our dependence is found over in C4. And then we will multiply again by the 22.16. And then you'll need to use a closing parentheses, which is the shift and the 10. And if you don't do that, you will get a nice little message that says, you've not completed the formula. Do you want Excel to complete it for you? And sometimes it will say that, and other times it will just not do anything because you didn't put the closing parentheses there. So if you have an issue, that is what you might want to look at. So we have equals 0.26 times open parentheses F4 minus C4 times 22.16, and then a closed parentheses. Okay, we'll go to H4, and H4 is our state tax. And this is 0.055 times our gross pay. So we will type equals 0.055, and then your asterisk, and then your gross pay, which is in F4. If you're following along in your textbook, you might be seeing that it reads, click the enter button. I don't use the enter button a whole lot. I just use tab or enter. But your enter button is this green check mark that's up here by your formula bar. I don't know why anybody would want to go up and use that. The difference is when you use the enter button, you remain in the cell where you just did your calculation. Versus if you tab, you go across to the next column. If you press enter, you go down to the next row. So if you're needing, let's say you're wanting to do some formatting to this cell after you've got it calculated, then you might want to use the enter button so that you can stay in that cell and not have to move back to it. But so this is your, whoops, let me go here. This is your cancel button, and this is your enter button. This is our insert function, which we'll talk about a little bit later on.
Just round it off on its own.
Right now, it may be rounding off differently than mine is, and that's okay. Okay, in I4, we are going to figure our tax percent. So what we're figuring is, what is the percentage of our gross pay that's taken out by federal and state tax combined? So we're going to have to add our tax amounts together to get a total tax. And then we're going to divide that by our gross pay. Okay. Now, sometimes if you are having to come up with, like, let's just say that it told you add your taxes together and divide it by gross pay. You guys, it may take you a while to decide how to come up with that formula because, one, you're not skilled in Excel yet. Okay. So therefore, they always give you the formulas that you will need to type in. Even on the homework portion, they, at some point in time, you may have to read all the way through an instruction step, but they will tell you what the formula is you need to type in there. So we're going to do equals, and then we're going to do an open parentheses, because the first thing we need to do is add our taxes together. So we're going to include that addition in these parentheses. So it will be G4 plus, sorry, you got to hit the shift sign to do the plus, G4 plus H4, and then you can close that parentheses. Then you can hit your / or the diagonal. You need to make sure you hit the / and not the backslash. / is in the 10 keypad over there, or it is with the question mark down in the lower right hand column of where your hands normally are. Type a plus sign, click. Okay, hold on. Where did I go here? Equals. G4 plus H4 diagonal, and then click F4. Then we can press our enter key, and it should be 0.308. And if it goes on longer than that, it may. Yes. The / is in your 10 keypad above the number 8.
No, what was the number you put?
Oh, what did I put after that? F4. Okay, then our net pay is going to be our gross pay minus our federal tax and our state tax combined. So again, in J4, we'll type equals F4, our gross pay, minus, and then open parentheses, G4 plus H4. and then you can close that parentheses. So our gross pay minus the total of our taxes, it's taken out. So this guy made 26.26 as his gross pay, and he's taking home 1,800. Gotta love taxes, don't you? Next part of your textbook has us using the fill handle. It also talks about your source range and your destination range, and we kind of talked about that last week. So our source is going to be F4 through J4. That's our source range, and our destination range is going to be F5 through J12. Okay, so we're going to select F4 through J4. And we're going to use our fill handle to copy these formulas down through the rest of these rows. So again, make sure you get your white mouse on the lower right-hand corner of your selected cells, and it turns into the black plus sign. That's when you can click and drag down to column or to row 12, and that's your fill handle that will fill all of that in. Okay. Yes, Brandon.
On my net pay, it pulled up a whole day.
Your net pay what?
It pulled up a date, 12/20/19.
Oh, okay. So you can select your net pay information and then go to your home ribbon and, oops, I forgot to say, in your number section, change that to, you can change it to a number for right now. And because we'll apply counting and comma formatting a little bit later on. Now, do they all look right?
Yes. Thank
Okay. Okay, so when we copied that information down, you will see that there's a little square that popped up where we ended that fill. So it's right here. You may or may not still have that showing, depending on if you have clicked somewhere else and done something else. But this is your autofill options. If you click on the little drop down arrow that goes with this, you'll see that you have the option of copying your cells, which is copying the formula and any formatting that goes with it down through. You can copy, or I'm sorry, you can just fill where your formatting is all that is taken, or you can fill without formatting. So you'll fill the data, but not any of the formatting that is applied to that first row. Most of the time, you're not going to do anything with that autofill options, but anytime that you do like a copy and paste in any of your applications, or in Microsoft Word, when it did the autocorrect, you would always get this little options box. They call it different things based on what application you're using and what skill you're using. But anytime you see this little box show up, you'll always be able to click on it to see the different choices that you have to make. But like I said, most of the time you're not going to use it for anything. If it's there and it keeps bothering you and you're like, why isn't this going away? You can always press your escape key and it should go away, but it's not. So I don't know. Oh, probably because I have to, I don't know. Mine's not going away. It should go away, but it's not. So I'll just have to deal with it. We are going to figure what? We are going to figure our totals now for this, for row 13. And we are going to create totals using our sum button in cells that are not next to each other. So we'll go to D13. Okay, they just have us do the auto sum there. That will add up that column, column D. So our total hours worked by everyone is 616 hours. And then we're going to select F13 through H13. And if you click the auto sum button now, it will automatically put totals in there based on the column. There's no moving marquee that tells you what is being added. It just automatically adds the information above. And that's because we had multiple columns selected. You can also do this with multiple rows like we did in module 1. Okay, and then we're going to go to J13. J13, we're also going to do the auto sum. And remember, the other thing you can do is just double click the auto sum, and it will put the total in J13. But it still uses the formula, so you can always look up here at your formula bar and see what the sums are adding together. All right, in I13, we need to figure the total of the tax percentage. But if you look at the calculation that we had to do, you can't get that by doing a total of column I. What you have to do is take this formula and bring it down one more row into I13. So what we can do is, while we're in I12, get on your fill handle again and just drag that formula down one more row. And now, instead of it being G12 plus H12 divided by F12, it is G13 plus H13 divided by F13. Okay, so it used that relative referencing and automatically changed the formula to row 13 instead of row 12. The next three things that we're going to do, or functions that we're going to use, for the highest, we're going to use the max function to find the highest number in our columns. The min function is going to be used to find the lowest number in each column. And then the average is going to add up your information in the columns and divide it by however many pieces of information there are. So we're going to do that for one column. And then once we have it done for one column, we'll use the fill handle to go all the way across. But we do have to make some adjustments to it at the end as well. So we're going to start in C14. And this is where our dependents are. So you probably can just look there and you can see your highest number is going to be a 3. Your lowest number is going to be a 0. I don't know what the average is, but I can figure that out. 1.44. Okay, so we kind of know that information already, but because we want to know that for all of our columns, we're going to start here with our function that we put in. So we'll go to C14, And we're going to use this insert function button that's up here by your formula bar. We're going to do different ways of creating these all three of these functions. So you can see different ways that they can be done and then pick the way that you like best, okay? So we'll start with the insert function button. We are wanting to use the max function. So most of the time, the category that is set here is the most recently used. And a lot of times you'll see the max function there. If you do not see it there, you can just type up in here, max. And then when you click go, it'll bring you to the max function. You can also go to probably statistical. It's probably in several others as well. Any group that you go to, they will be listed in alphabetical order. So you can scroll down to the M's and find the max function this way. If you have no idea which one this would be in, you could do all, the category all, but then you have all of them to scroll through. So I would suggest if it's not in the most recently used, just search up here for it and find it that way. When you have it selected as the one you are looking at, it will give you a short description down here at the bottom. So this is going to return the largest value in a set of values. It will ignore logical values and text. So if for some reason one of the cells that you have selected has text in it, it will ignore that. It only works with numbers. So we'll click the OK button. This tells you that it is going to work with the numbers that, or the range that is C4 through C13. Okay, I'm going to click this little arrow here, which is the collapse button. It collapsed my function arguments here. Oops, what I did there. In case I need to see more of my screen, if it's taking up some of my space. It's not really, but if you need to expand it back again, you'll see the little blue arrow at the end that you can click down to expand it. This range is not the correct range. Can anybody tell me why? Okay, there's nothing in 13 or 14. Why do I have the 3? I don't know. Oh, yeah, I do. It's at the end there. Okay, so the range that I need is only C4 through C12. Okay, I don't know how I got a +3 in there. So, okay, let me try that again. I did my insert function, max, okay. So now I'm at C4 through C13, which I don't want to be. I can just take my mouse, click and drag down through C12. The other option is I could click up here in my function box where it said 13, take out the 3 and change it to 12. Okay. The number 2, you're not going to work with in our max function here. Okay. So what this tells you is these are the values that are there. And down here it says this is the value that will be returned is the number 3. So the nice thing about using your function arguments box is that you will see what the results are and you can think logically, is that a logical answer or not? Is it a negative number? Should it be a negative number? Is it a positive number? Should it be a positive number? Does 3 even make sense for it to be the highest in that column? And yes, it does. So we can go ahead and click the OK button and we will see that 3 is returned as the highest number in that column. If we go down to C15, we will we are going to use the min function for this. Okay, and the way we're going to do this one is once you're in C15, we're going to come over here to our auto sum button. So this is the second way. The first way was doing the insert function dialog box. The second way is coming to your auto sum button and using that drop down arrow next to it. And typically these are the 5 functions that you will see. If for some reason you don't see the min function there, you can do the more functions. That takes you right to the insert function dialog box where we just were. But since min is here and we know that's what we want, we can click on that. And notice what it is giving us the min of. What is that range? C14. That's not what we want, is it? So we'll have to take our mouse and drag through C4 through C12. And then you can press your enter key, or you can click your enter button up here, however you want to do it. So the lowest number is 0, which we already knew. So we use the insert function dialog box, and then we use the auto sum button to find the lowest number, the min. And our last function we're going to use here is the average. So our third way of getting a formula entered, or a function entered, I'm sorry, is we're just going to start typing it. Equals AV. And so you'll see that there are several that start with the AV. We want average. So you can see that there's the second one there is just the word average. You can continue typing that all out, or you can take your mouse and click on the average. Double click on average. And then it will put the word average with the open parentheses. Now you can take your mouse and click and drag, or you could type C4:C12 for the range that you need. And then you can press your enter button here. And because we were using a function from that list that was dropped down, we did the double click on it, it automatically put that closing parentheses for us. Not always will it do that. So if you don't use a closing parentheses, it may give you an error message, and you'll have to make sure you add that in.
I didn't just see which one of the averages you said we should pick.
So you go down to the second one, and they tell you that you can use your arrow key down. You can double click on it. I think you can press your enter key. Nope, that didn't work. Oh, because yeah. You can't just press your enter key. You have to click on, you have to select it and then double click on it to make it be the average. So you should get 1.444444444. Now that we have those 3 functions put in, we are going to copy those across to column J. So we'll select C14, 15, and 16. And we're going to use our fill handle and come all the way over to column J. In your homework, you will need to do this next step, and a lot of students forget to do this next step. There is not a, which one is that? We cannot do the average of a percentage of tax. It is a mathematical invalid operation, I guess. So we have to go to I-16 and we have to delete that. That's all you have to do is just delete it. And you'll have to delete that from your homework portion too. Okay. So just remember to do that. And you'll get it counted off if you don't do it the first time. But then you can go back and make sure you delete that. All right, the next part of your textbook talks about the range finder. And for this particular spreadsheet, it's probably not that big of a deal, but if you're dealing with a bigger spreadsheet, the range finder can be very helpful for you. If I go where I know there is a formula in any of these, and I double click, then I get this color coding that you probably saw if we did the click to enter our cells, cell references. But when you do a double click, it color codes your formula or this formula. So G4 is in blue, H4 is in red, and then F4 is in purple. So that just helps you look and go, okay, is that what I'm needing for my formula for this particular calculation that I need to do? So that's called the range finder. Now, what happens to me a lot of times is I've noticed that I've clicked inside where it says G4 plus, and then I usually go and I click somewhere else. And then I add those where I click to my formula. If that happens, just press your escape key and it'll go back to what it was before. Okay. Or if you do set it in there and you get an error message, just hit your undo button. Okay, the next, we're kind of done with setting this all up. Now we just need to format it. I think they have us change our theme. To, what are we changing it to? Okay, why am I missing that? I'm not seeing. Click the page layout, click the themes, gallery, and the themes. Oh, okay. So you'll do page layout in your themes, and then you should have a gallery theme that you're going to select. And you'll notice that changes all the fonts, changes the colors of your entire workbook. That makes it already easier to read, in my opinion. Okay, I'm going to make this smaller so I can see all this. Okay, so our first formatting, we're going to do the first column just like we did last time. The first row. So we'll get our title, Club 4 Engineering. Click and drag from A1 to K1, and you're going to do merge and center. So if you're not back on your home ribbon, you'll want to go back to the home ribbon, and we're going to click the merge and center button. We're going to do the same thing to the row 2, merge and center that. Then we're going to select A1 and A2 together, and we're going to go to our cell styles. And we are going to select the title style. Then we're going to select only A2. And we're going to decrease the font to the next lower font size. So right now we're at 18. You can just click this smaller A to decrease, and I believe it goes down to 16. I'm sorry, what? Okay. And you selected A1 through K1 and A2 through K2? That's okay. You have to do them separately, yeah. Once you have those merged and centered, and then the row 2 down to size or font 16-point font, We're going to select A1 and A2 again. And we're going to set a background color of indigo accent 5, lighter 80%. So we'll come up here to our fill, which is that paint can. This is indigo is the 9th column over, so it's next to the last one. And then you want to do minus 80% or lighter 80%. So it's column 9, row 2. So it's going to be a very light purple or blue. For both of those cells, yeah. Yeah, so let me click outside of it and you'll see both of them are, yeah. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go back and select A1 and A2 because we're gonna put a border around the outside of these two cells. So once you have them selected, you will come up to your font section and you'll see your borders button there. You can click your drop down arrow and you are going to choose outside borders. Yeah. Then if you click off of it, you will see underneath row 2 and on the right hand side of K, there's a little black line there. It is at the top and on the left. We just can't see it because of the column letters and the row number showing there. We are next going to format row 3. So we're going to start with A3 and go over through K3. We'll go up to our cell styles and we're going to choose heading 3. While that is all still selected, we're also going to use our center alignment button. So that's here in your alignment section of your home ribbon, and then the bottom middle alignment button there. We're going to select the range A13 through K13. This is our totals row. We'll come up to our cell styles and we're going to choose the total style. So it's going to have a single line above and a double line below this row. And the one I always forget, A14 through A16, we are going to bold. I cannot tell you how many classes have got counted off on that particular step because I always overlook it for some reason. We're going to go to column K and format our dates. So we'll select K4 through K12. We'll come over to our number section on our home ribbon. And you can click your dialog box launcher and that will bring up your format cells dialog box. Because we went into the dialog box in the number section of our ribbon, it should automatically come up with the number tab selected. So if we went in from the alignment section, it should have the alignment tab selected. Okay, same thing with font. If we go in from font, it would have the font tab selected. So if you get to it from some other way, all you have to do is click on the other tab that you need. We're going to go to the date section. And then we want to click the one that is 3/14/12. So it's not the very first one that has the asterisk in front of it. It's down in the middle somewhere. I'm sorry, what?
Fifth option.
2, 3, 4, 5, yes. So we'll go ahead and click the OK button here. And you'll probably see some adjustments being made. We're going to go to C4 through C16. So that's our dependents column. And you'll notice that it's very wide because we have the average of 1.44444444. So we're going to center this range. And where do we? Oh, darn it. Okay, our next section is to apply accounting number format and comma style format. So remember last time we talked about applying an accounting style format, which has the $ and decimal places to the first row of our spreadsheet and the total row of our spreadsheet. And then everything in between is going to be a comma style so that the decimal places line up, but we don't have all this $ showing. So we're going to select E4 through H4. We'll hold down our control key and we're going to click on cell J4. Then we're going to come down to F13 and we can drag through H13. Oops, that didn't work. And then we'll click on J13. So you should have E4 through H4, J4, F13 through H13, and J13 all selected. While we have those selected, we are going to click the accounting number format, which is your $. You can also click on the drop down arrow here and do accounting from your drop down menu if you want to, but it's the same thing as the $ right here. Now for our comma style, we are going to select row 5 through row 11. So we'll start with E5 through H12. We'll hold down our control key, do J5 through J12, and then we'll come up in our number section and there's a little comma button right there. So you can click that comma button and you'll see anything that had multiple decimal places now only has 2 decimal places. And so everything lines up a little bit nicer. Now we're going to apply the currency style formatting. So what we just did was called accounting style formatting that has the fixed $. The currency style is going to have the floating $. And we also are going to change the negative numbers from a minus at the beginning of them with black font to still being black font, but it will have the parentheses around it to signify that it's a negative number. So we are going to select, this is going to be down in our highest, lowest, and average. So we'll start in E 14 through 16 and go over to J 14 through 16. So to apply the currency style formatting and to be able to change the negative numbers to being black with the parentheses around them, we have to go to the dialog box launcher. If you just needed currency style, you can have that option right here. But because we have to change the negative numbers, we have to go into the dialog box launcher. With our number tab, we can click on currency. We'll leave the 2 decimal places. We're going to leave the dollar signs. But in our negative numbers, we have to choose the third option, which has the parentheses around the black text. We'll click our OK button, and now you'll see the dollar signs show up right next to the numbers. And as we increase and decrease the width, they will stay right next to the number. We'll go up to column I4 through I15. And we are going to set this to percent style. So we'll come up here to our number section and you'll see the percent sign. You can just click on it to make it a percentage. Most of the time, you're going to have at least 2 decimal places showing with your percent style. So to the right of your comma button, you will see the decimal places with an arrow to the left, which will increase your decimal places. And then the arrow to the right is your decrease the decimal places. We want to increase it, so we'll click our increase button twice. And you guys aren't seeing all this, so I'll make it bigger. All right, conditional formatting. This is a way that you can highlight specific cells in your spreadsheet that meet a certain criteria that you put in. So what we want to do is we want to highlight any of our employees who have worked more than 70 hours in our 2-week pay period. Okay. So to do that, as you look through there, you can see that there are a few of our people, this is in column B. So you see a few people here that have worked over 70 hours, 70 or more, okay? We want to be able to identify that this pay period and next pay period and the following pay period. So we're going to use something that's called conditional formatting that will be able to be applied every time we use the spreadsheet. Some students, because they don't read back in their textbook in EX2-8J section, they just go in and they're like, okay, this person is 70, and so I'm supposed to make it like purple, and this person is over 70, and this person is over 70. So next pay period, if I know there's a couple more, but next pay period, let's say that whoever this is works 80 hours, but this person only works 60 hours. Okay, so my 60-hour person is still purple, even though they shouldn't be purple. because I didn't do conditional formatting properly. So I'm going to show you how to do conditional formatting properly, so that it, once we make those changes after we have conditional formatting, you'll see the formatting change. So first of all, we need to select our range where we want to apply our conditional formatting. So that's D4 through D12. We don't need the total in row 13. So D4 through D12. And then on our home ribbon, you will see that there is a conditional formatting. It's pretty much right in the middle of that home ribbon. When we click on that, you will see that there are several predefined formatting options. We're not going to use any of those, okay? I think you might in the homework projects, but it'll tell you use the data bars and whatever, okay? But we're gonna go down, we're gonna set our own rule. So we'll click on new rule, and then we need to choose the second option in our select a rule type. We want to format only cells that contain, and then down here in the rule description, we're going to have to set it to specify what the rules are we want it to follow. So our cell value needs to be greater than or equal to, because if they've worked 70 or more, we want it to be highlighted. So we'll type a 70. So our cell value is greater than or equal to, and then we'll type a 70 over here. And the bottom portion of this shows you a preview of what our formatting will be. And right now it's blank. It's just like it's normal. So we have to go in and set our formatting so that it highlights this. So we'll click the format button here. And if the font tab is not selected, wait, hold on, did I get, yeah. The font tab, we're gonna click on that and we're gonna change the color of our font so that it is white. So now you can't see it. But then we're gonna go over to our fill tab, and they have us use purple that is in column 8, row 1. And the reason they have to identify it for you there is because in a lot of these dialog boxes, the pop-out thingies don't show, I can't remember what they're called, screen help, the help tips, okay? Screen tips, I'll get it right. So you wanna go over to column 8. 7 and 8 are both purple, so you need to go to column 8. Remember, there's 10 there's 10 columns. So we're going to go to column 8 and row 1, so we get this purple color. And then we can click on our OK button. And now it's showing us the preview where it's purple with white font. We can click our OK button again. And now you'll see all of these people that have more than 70 hours show up in purple. So now let's say this person works 60 next pay period, and this person works 80. So you see how that changed automatically for us? So that's why you want to set up the conditional formatting when you're needing to highlight specific cells that you want to draw attention to. Because maybe be jammy is not supposed to work 80 hours a week, or maybe they're not supposed to work 70 hours a week. So we need to be aware if they're getting to that mark, so we can not schedule them for so many hours and stuff. But sometimes people have overtime that's not scheduled, and so that can be kind of a problem. So the next page talks about the conditional formatting operators. So you can just kind of read through that. There, if you've used conditional operators for other things, they'll kind of make sense to you. Okay, then we're going to change our column width and our row height. your column width is set to an average of, let's see, an average of 8.43 characters if you're using an 11-point Calibri font. You don't need to know that, but this is just kind of giving you background information of how they come up with the way they measure their columns. Okay. The default height, that's the width. The width is the 8.43. The height is 15 points, which is going to easily fit an 11-point font. Okay, with a little bit of white around it. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you're ever needing to adjust columns or column heights or widths, row heights or column widths, just kind of keep those in mind, that it's 15 is the height and 8.43 is the width, because that's the average number of characters of a word or something. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to do our row, our column widths first. So they're going to have us select A, B, and C. So you can do all three of these at the same time. You want them to be auto fit. So with these three selected, you can actually go between any of them. I think they have you go to the end of column C, but you can go to any of them. When you get your two-headed arrow, if you double click, it will adjust all three of those columns to the widest they need to be for whatever is in that specific column. In column H, they want you to make the width 10.38 or 88 pixels. So you go to column H and you can get your double-headed arrow, but you're just going to click and drag until you get to 10.38. Okay, now if you're like a lot of people, getting it to stop on 10.38 can be quite a challenge sometimes, especially if you're using a mouse that is not a mouse that you're used to. So I always show people, right click on your column heading, go down to column width and type in 10.33, 10.38. It helps if you get the right number. Because I thought I was at 10.38, and when I did my column width, it was 10.25 or something like that. So even though you think you might have it, when you let go, you might move it just a little bit. So right click on the column heading, go down to column width, and you can set it to what you need it to be. Okay, then we're going to click column D. We'll hold down our control key. Actually, you could do a click and drag because you're going to D and E, but then you'll hold down your control key and go to I. So hold down your control key to get something that's not adjacent. So you have D, E, and I. And they want you to drag until it's 10.50. Oh, there it is. Okay. You can also come back and click on it and make sure you did get it to 10.50. But you also run the risk of making it bigger or smaller when you do that. Then we're going to do F and G. We're going to hold down our control key and get J and K. And we're going to change these to 11.33. So when you have multiple columns selected, you can right click on the heading of any of them to get that column width. And we're gonna set this to 11.13. We're gonna go to row 3. This is the row that has our 2 rows of headings. They want us to set our row height to 39. So you're gonna do this the same way, but you have to be at the bottom of the cell. So we'll go to the bottom of row 3 between rows 3 and 4. You can click on that, the bottom, and mine's set at 52.5. So I need to come up to 39. And we're going to do the same thing for row 14, but we want it to be 24. So we'll come down here to row 14. We're going to make it down to 24. I don't know if you guys read in your textbook where it says drag it down, do not release the mouse button. And then the very next thing says release a mouse button. So I don't know why they do that, but to me it seems a little crazy. All right, so then it has you run your spell checker, which I always have problems finding, but it's under review. And you can do your spell checker and you can continue at the beginning, and it's going to stop on this what is that called? Name, proper noun. It's been too long since I've had English class. Because my name is spelled with a KH instead of a CCA, it's not recognized in a lot of dictionaries. So if you're working for Clapor engineering, you may want to add Clapor to your dictionary. And so you can just click here to add it to your dictionary, and then hopefully it won't keep popping up as a name that it doesn't recognize. So you can just do ignore once. It'll go through all of these names that it doesn't recognize as a name. And then when it's finished, you can click OK. Do make sure that you always run the spell check when it asks you to, especially on homework, because sometimes they put misspelled words in there intentionally to make sure that you do run the spell check. There's additional information on there on spell checking. Okay, printing. We don't typically do printing, but I need to go to view. In the view tab, this is one thing I think is very confusing too. You have a page layout ribbon, and in your view, you also have a page layout view. And so I have to think which one I'm going to each time. Okay, in your page layout view, this is where you'll see your header section, and you also see a footer section down at the bottom of this. Yeah, so here's your footer section. So you don't see that if you're in normal view. So in order to add those, you can go into the header or footer through the page layout, or you should be able to go under insert and then do your header footer here, and it'll take you into the header section. I know we worked with headers and footers in Microsoft Word, but I just want you to know that you can do them here as well. Okay, they have you change your margins to narrow. So I got to go back to my page layout. Oops, I got to get out of my header. Here we go. Okay, in my page layout tab, I'm going to change my margins to narrow. And I'm going to type in my header. They have you type in the middle header section where it actually has the word add header. There are 2 other sections, so if you need to type on the left section or the right section, But you're going to type in Madelyn, Samuels, and then you can press your enter key and you'll go right down below that. Chief Financial Officer. Okay, guys, I can't tell you how many times students type stuff in here incorrectly. And then I think they're like, I don't know how to get back to that, so I can't fix it. So just make sure that it is correctly spelled in there, so you don't have to get counted off for that. Okay, so we're gonna go to our orientation and change it to landscape. I think I told you last week, most of the time you're going to be put, if you print, you would print these in landscape. If we go to column F, they have us double click that. Oh, because it has changed our width, so we can't see all of those. So you do that to F and J, so you can see all of that. And then they have you go into the print. And you don't have to print this, but what they want you to do is be able to fit it all on one page. So you see all you're missing is this last column. So you should be able to go into scaling. And if you do fit all columns on one page, then it should squeeze it up so you can see all the columns, but doesn't make it so tiny. If you choose fit on one sheet. Oh, see, if I do no scaling. If I do fit on one page, what normally happens is it gets really, really tiny and you can't see any of it. So I don't know what the rhyme or reason is to that. Sometimes I get real little itty bitty and sometimes it does this where you can see everything. So play around with it until you get what you want. If you just need to print a section, let me go back here. So let's say that we want to only print their pay rate, but not their gross pay and all of that. So you could have it selected, and then when you go into print, you would choose selection only, and then you just get what you had selected there. Let me go back. In your textbook, it shows you how to display what's called the formulas version of your worksheet. Prior to having access to all this electronic sending back and forth, what I would do is I would ask students to print out their worksheets with the formulas showing so I could check to make sure they had the formulas correct. And you do that by doing the control and the accent grave or that little squiggly line. I learned that as a tilde, but someone else told me that's, I don't remember what it is in Spanish. It's called something in Spanish, but I call it the tilde. That's above the tab key to the left of the number 1. When you hold down your control key and that key, you'll see that all of your formulas are showing as well as all of your functions. While we're here, I will point out the I-13 formula that we put in there or function that we put in there. You'll notice that it has a little green arrow in the top left-hand corner. If you hold your mouse on that and click on it, you will get this little exclamation box that pops out and says, hey, something's not right here. If you click on the drop down arrow there, it's going to tell you that it's an inconsistent formula because it doesn't match the sum functions that we have going across here. So it's like, oh, are you sure this is what you want? And we are, because we know we needed to do that division there. You also have the option to copy, ignore. So I would say ignore error, and that gets that little arrow or that little triangle out of there. So if that bothers you, that's how you get rid of it. So then also I'll point out dates over here. These are in numeric value from January 1 of 1900. January 1 of 1900 was day 1 in Microsoft World. Okay. So today is, I don't know what, if I put in today's date, which is 3/1/22. This is 44,621 days since January 1 of 1900. Doesn't seem like that many, does it? 44,000 days? Yeah, but that's what it is. So anyway, that's how they come up with that numeric value. And they do that so that when we learn how to do queries in Access, you can use it to do today plus 10 days. You can do that in Excel too. If you're using an Excel spreadsheet to make an invoice or something that's due in 10 days or due in 30 days, you could do today's date plus 30 in your formula. And it won't look like that. It will look like this, but you can do your invoice due date is equals K4 plus 30 if it's due in 30 days. So if they didn't have a numeric value associated with that date, it would be more difficult to do that calculation. So I also will tell you, if you're in your values version and you adjust the size of your columns, when you come back to your other version, they're going to be too small and you won't be able to see them. So while in your values version, you can just kind of work with them being big. Okay, the other thing they have you do, and I don't know why, but you probably want to do it in case Sam counts off for it, is go back into your print and they have you change the scaling back to no scaling. Okay, and mine's all messed up because I changed the column widths and everything, but go ahead and save yours. That's the end of this. So you can save it, submit it, see how you did. If you have anything that got counted off and you can't figure out why, I'll try to help you and figure that out. Question or just stretching? Question. What's your question?
On the email addresses, mine didn't print out like the font.
Okay, and I will tell you, sometimes you get counted off for those, and sometimes I can find an error and sometimes I can't. So if you've double checked names and first initials are correct, I sometimes, Sam, I don't know what it does. So I just look at it, and if it's correct, then I'm like, yeah, you're good. Yes.
Well, or was it a currency form or?
Which one?
Well, for.
Row 4.
It would be probably E4 to.
So E4 to H4, and then I4.
You said the control.
Yeah.
Control.
And those are accounting style. Okay, next week, we'll work on Excel module 3. And then your test will be available for you to work on after class before the next week. Sound good? Okay, so next week will be our last week before spring break. Okay, and I like to get that test out of the way before spring break, but I will leave it open for you until the 15th, just because that gives you the whole week to do it. If you can get it out of the way before you go skiing or to the beach for spring break or whatever. How many are going somewhere for spring break?
Is that the exam for the Excel module? Is that what
Yeah.
you're referring to? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I never went anywhere either, so. Anyway, it's just you working through it all, aren't you? Yeah. So, all right, if you don't have any other questions, you can take off. If you want to stay and work, you can stay and work. Otherwise, I'll see y'all next week. Jonathan? Okay. Okay, click off of it. Okay, so that one just needs to have the formatting or the shading put in. So go back to your paint can and it should be already. Is it? It's the top row, the 81, that one. Yeah, sorry, wrong. That's the column, but we gotta go down to 80. The second row, yeah, 80%, yeah. And it should have a border around. It should be, yeah. Yeah, but I don't think the top one is, the engineering one. I don't think that's the correct color. Oh, no, you're right. I was wrong. It's that one. That's the correct one. Sorry. But you have to go down to 2, row 2. Yep, yep. Okay, do both of them. Click A1 and A2 together. There you go. Now go up to your paint can and go to the next one over. Indigo, that one. Yes, now they both should be set to that, but go up to the salary report one and go to your borders and set it to no borders. And then you want to select both rows. Oops. Have a good week. All right, you too. And now just do outside, not the thickness, yeah. There you go. Okay. I don't think your date is set correctly. Yeah, that date column. Click outside of it. Click outside of it. There you go. Now click and drag. Click and drag. There you go. And then go up to your dialog box here. And you want the 5th one down, which is 3/14/12. That one. Yeah. And then it also looks like you haven't got the comma.
Yeah, that's what I kind of got behind it.
Okay.
Doing the currency one.
So go to D5. And you're gonna click and drag through J12. There. Oh, no, that's not right. It, yes. you're right. Yes, that one, just through this column. You don't want the percent. And then you can hold there, your control key down.
And that's where I got, because it started, it was like a different color, right, when I did it, it was like a light, right? Like, oh, total one up to change.
Okay, and so now we're going to go and hit the comment. There you go. And I think
Yeah.
I thought thought D was supposed to be. Huh, maybe it's not.
And my total should be current now,
The totals should be currency style. Yeah, column D should be 2 decimal places. I don't know. It's left justified. I missed that somewhere. Shocker. So this all the way down should be set to 2 decimal places.
what's that column D?
Column D.
Well, all around those have 2 decimal places except for number 11. Mine doesn't have 2 decimal places.
What about your highest, lowest, and average?
My highest is 80, lowest is 42.5, 42.25. My average is 68.5278.
Okay, so that one needs to be set to 2 decimal places also.
And it has function with the. So I said another percentage or.
No, you can just, once you have it all selected,
uh,
just go to your decimal places here. And if you click it one way or another, if it makes it 3, then take one off. If it makes it 2, or if it makes it 1, then just add 1. It kind of depends on which one it's reading from. I don't know.
You said go to my decimal places and. Where's it at?
It is in the number section,
Oh,
the little zeros with the arrows next to them.
okay.
Go one way or the other, and then
Okay.